Larraine Bell. I've been asked by lots of people to tell them what happened to me with C Corp from Sydney. So I'd just like to set the record straight and just tell you what happened, so it doesn't happen to you or someone else, as I wouldn't want anyone to go through what I've been through in the last few months.
Okay, thanks Larraine. So I understand from conversations with you that your husband passed away about 5 years ago and you went through some really traumatic events where you were actually defrauded of money and placed in a very difficult position. And I understand that you're not holding C Corp in any way responsible for any of those events.
No, it was all before I knew them.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about your financial position and your life just before meeting C Corp. So after all the different things that happened to you, can you tell me what your financial position was? What did you own and what were your debts?
Well, when I first met Steve, who is from C Corp, and I thought was C Corp, along with a lady called Carly Crutchfield. I owned just under a hectare of land in Thornlands, which we ran a flower farm out of, and with a value back then, we could have sold it several times for 1.5 mil, with people asking us.
So it was worth $1.5 million?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your plan for the property?
We had known for a long time that it was in the development area for Thornlands. So we had always hoped to stay on the land with the house we built together and just sell off the front and live at the back and do what we'd like to do.
Okay, so you're saying your land was due to be rezoned?
Yes.
Yes.
It took nearly 7 years for it to finally get through, but we eventually made it.
Okay, so you owned a property that was, just before getting involved with C Corp, your property was worth at least $1.5 million.
Yeah, that was just as
is prior to the rezoning.
Yes.
And what was your debt on that land?
We had a debt of $500,000.
$500,000. Okay, so your net worth would have been $1 million, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's without the rezoning, which did actually take place
right.
later on. Okay, and at that stage, were you thinking about selling the property?
Yes, because it was getting too much for me on my own. The weeds grow really fast.
Okay, so tell me about how you got involved with C Corp.
A girl I met through a business network group and I'd got friendly with had done some property development courses, and it turns out they were with C Corp, and she had been telling me that she thought my land was ideal because she also knew that it was in the development area to be approved. So she eventually brought Steve Fagan from C Corp to meet me and have a look around.
Okay, and what did Steve Fagan think of your property?
He loved it right from the word go because it's got a great big frontage, which was something that most properties don't have, so it was a bit special.
Okay, and what did Steve Fagan tell you about himself, C Corp and Carly Crutchfield?
He told me that C Corp had been set up by Carly Crutchfield, and she had actually learnt property development from him when she was very young, and that she'd actually paid him to learn the property development.
Okay, so what deal did C Corp offer you?
Steve came up from Sydney several times and had said he was working on some feasibility studies, which all came through good, and he was very excited about the deal. And so he offered me 1.5 mil plus I keep my house. So I was over the moon. I thought I had the best of both worlds.
Okay, so he's offering you $1.5 million for the land in front of your property, is that right?
That's
that was going to be rezoned and he was going to subdivide and develop?
Yes.
And you would keep your house?
Yes.
At the back?
Yes.
So that's an amazing deal, because prior to that you were only going to get $1.5 million for the whole package.
Yeah,
yep.
I was.
So how did you
happy.
feel? You were excited?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Did C Corp put their deal in writing?
Yes, they did. And Steve had told us he was very, very excited about it. And we were excited too. Well, when I say we, myself and my girls, yeah.
Right, okay. All right. So what kind of contracts did you sign with C Corp?
There was an agreement and a contract and an option, which I suppose I better explain, because we had told him that we would never sign an option because we had all, myself and some neighbours I introduced him to, had all said we'd been down that track and we weren't interested in going down that way again. So he assured us that there was no way that they would be pulling out of the development and that it was just the way they do it, and gave a 100% guarantee that that would never happen.
Okay, so that was verbally that Steve Fagan assured
Yes,
you
he shook
that...
hands on it and he said it in front of witnesses that we would never be in that situation.
Yeah. And in fact, Steve Fagan made this arrangement with neighbouring properties as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and it was to people that I introduced him to. So I just feel just devastated because it's not only me in this situation now, it's people that I'm friends with.
Sure. Okay, so once the contract's signed, how did you feel?
Great, yeah. I just had to wait on council and state government to pass the plans, which was unfortunately delayed quite a bit of time. But
And what did that delay in rezoning mean for you?
it meant I had to borrow some money to make my repayments on the original loan, because it was taking a lot longer than what I had expected. So I borrowed some short-term money, and I know it was a higher interest rate.
How much money did you borrow?
I borrowed $290,000.
Okay, so tell us about what the arrangement was. Who did you borrow the money from? What interest rate did you pay?
I borrowed it because I wasn't working. I borrowed it through a mortgage broker who could get the money for me from Oceanic Securities in Southport. The interest rate was 12%, which I know was...
Per year?
No, per month.
Per month, 12.
But it was only a short-term loan, and we sat down and did all the figures, and I knew that I would still come out of this okay, and due to circumstances, it was the easiest way to go.
Okay, so just to summarise, you needed to borrow money, I guess, to service that debt that you had for $500,000 because you had no income. So a broker arranged a loan through Oceanic Finance, and that was at 12% interest per month.
Yes.
And the amount was $290,000.
Yes.
I'm just amazed that you qualified for the loan, given the fact that you didn't have any source of income. On what basis did they approve that loan?
They asked that Steve Fagan from C Corp confirm that he did have a contract on the property and that he was definitely going ahead with the development, which is what happened.
Okay.
And so then they approved the money because it was a win-win situation.
Right, okay, so Steve Fagan had verbally assured you and the neighbours that they were 100% committed to the project, and you're saying, and Steve Fagan also assured your lender that he was completely committed to the project.
Yes.
And that's the basis that you got your loan on.
Yes.
And I guess, is that the basis you borrowed the money on?
Yes.
Okay. At this stage, I think it's appropriate to ask, had you any doubts about Steve Fagan and C Corp fulfilling their obligations under the contract?
None whatsoever, because he used to come up quite regularly when he would ring, and keep in contact and keep the hype up, I suppose. And yeah, it was never ever, because he had said we'd all been down there and had options before, and he guaranteed that this was not, wouldn't happen, that they were definitely going ahead.
So when was the property rezoned?
The 31st of March this year in 2010.
And how did you feel when the rezoning, when you were notified?
Well, it was just such a relief, because there had been delay after delay with government. And it was just, yeah, I thought we'd made it.
Okay, and what did you do next once you'd been notified?
I rang Steve the next morning. I couldn't get him that night. And yeah,
what was his reaction?